Yep, perfect. All right, if you just want to grab one and take a seat, and then we're going to bring up Jarrod and Paul back on stage to come and join you. And I noticed there are a few questions through the app, which is fantastic. So I'm going to put this down so I can grab my phone. And you cannot phone a friend, you just got to answer, all right? Have we got them all up here? Lovely. All right, looking comfortable? Fantastic. Okay, let's go. I've just looked at the first one with you, Jarrod. A 5% blend of hydrogen into natural gas. Have you discovered any increase in leakage rates in the distribution network? That's from Kent Vickers. Would you like to? You can't whisper in his ear. We want to hear what's going on.
No.
Okay.
Very simple one.
This is going to be nice and easy. All right, can I ask you?
I'll probably just add
to
Kent's just bit more information on that. So as part of some of the trials that I've been involved with, looking at blending ratios and what actually happens in the gas stream. So if you're injecting into a turbulent flow, for instance, or you create and develop a turbulent flow as part of the injection, you end up with a pretty consistent stream of gas. So that gas just flows as one. You don't end up with a segregation or separation of gas within the stream itself. So what we've done previously, or I've previously been involved with, is sampling of the gas network at certain points post-gas injection and just identifying, well, if you're injecting a percentage blend, does anywhere in the network end up with a particular blend? So to prove that, as part of previous work that I've been involved with, we sampled multiple locations around the network, receiving the same percentage blend, and identified that it was exactly the same. So you're not going to end up with a scenario where, because hydrogen is such a smaller molecule, where it's separating itself or diffusing from the gas to then being able to escape from the pipework. There are going to be inherent leakages, and as we go to 100%, yes, you may end up with an increase in leakage rates, potentially. So, and there's a lot of work that's been done, AHC for instance, that report that kind of goes into that detail.
Okay, much better than a simple no, thank you. Okay, so I've got Paul now. There's one here. You can all see the questions actually on your app if you wanted to have a look. What upgrades will be implemented to upgrade the eCert system to allow proper on-site usage in regional areas?
Yeah, so that's one of the questions that gets raised quite a lot. So there's two options. One is that we can upgrade the platform itself so the certificate can be used, or we have an option of changing the legislation so that that immediately becomes when you're in a Wi-Fi or an internet connectivity area. And we could cover off on the plate requirement by some changes to the plate requirements in our legislation. We're currently doing a bit of a review to see how effective the plates are. And there is a potential that we could move away from requiring a plate at a residence, and rather than having the plate, make that information that is displayed on the plate available to the owner on a website.
Okay, all right. Okay, Graham, if we ban gas and proceed with electricity, is the infrastructure there to support, there in the power grid to support it? And I mean, we've just gone through over usage of when we went through our storms and the humidity, and then there's been power blackouts already.
Yeah, I mean, I'll put the disclaimer that I'm not an expert in electricity transmission. I mean, I'm dodging the question a little bit there. It's hard to say because we have seen transmission issues. AEMO, I think, are predicting transmission issues in peak season. So I think it can be an issue in the future. We're also moving some of our transport sector energy to the grid. So we're just layering on a dated grid. And I think that's a big issue. We're also decentralising power. So power's going, solar PV plants everywhere. I think it's an issue, but again, I'm not an expert in that field, but that'd be, Jarrod might have better insight there.
I was going to say, you have to say something like a no to us and we all go panic buying and we're like, no gas, oh my God, we've all got to go and buy this. So it just goes crazy the other way. Did you want to add something in there?
Yeah, I'll just add quickly that there's a lot of work being done at the moment to gauge the implications on the electricity infrastructure network. So something that hasn't been done. So you get gen costs or CSIRO gen cost. You also get the electricity. So as part of AEMO's work, they look at the potential cost of decarbonisation. That work looks at a network transmission-based expansion, not necessarily the distributed cost or the distributed infrastructure. So C4Net, which is a program that's going on at the moment, is in progress looking at what is the actual implications across not just the transmission infrastructure asset, but also the distributed. So it's great looking at transmission and what are the implications, but it's not great if your distributed system that's providing to residential consumers, commercial and industrial customers can't be upgraded, or the cost is going to be significant, because when you're upgrading everything to provide people three-phase power supply because they need it to power their EVs and every other product, it's going to have significant impacts on the grid. And the grid is old. It's very old in a lot of locations. The transformers, substations that are powering those grids aren't currently built for a decarbonised solution. So what we're seeing in the electricity network space is, again, those challenges. So they're facing significant decarbonisation challenges, as are we, but it's gauging what is the cost of consumers, because if you're upgrading the distributed infrastructure to supply to those consumers, what is that cost going to be passed on? Because it isn't free, and the network providers are going to pass on those costs.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Okay, Graham, I think this one's for you. Oh, no, Paul. How is the sale and purchase of gas materials tools from Bunnings to general public being policed?
That's a stitch up.
Where are you, Daniel? Do you work for Bunnings?
No. So it's not only gas products, but plumbing, building and electrical products, and it's a commercial law. So all we can do is regulate that the components meet any requirements through standards that they need to meet. We can't regulate, I don't know if the question was, can only licensed people buy it, but we can't regulate that. We can't enforce that requirement on an open commercial market.
I thought I saw you
Like
down
they
at
do in
Pacific
Europe.
Fair, running around after somebody with some PVC connectors.
Yeah.
No.
All right, Jarrod, I've got this question for you. You mentioned that the appliances do not need to be retooled for biomethane. I thought it was methane, but methane to work. However, is there a difference in how you are sizing the delivery pipe work and what is the heating valve?
Yeah, good question. So you do get some variability depending on the methane content of the biogas. Again, what happens internationally, in particular in the UK and Europe, they have higher WOBI index ratings and heating values, so they actually add propane to bring up the concentration. Now, what we would look at is how that heating value or WOBI looked at from the biomethane concentrations as we're blending into the networks, but the majority of the projects we're looking at this point in time matches natural gas. So it transports exactly the same. It acts exactly the same in your burners, cooktops, Type B appliances. If it works with natural gas, it will work with biomethane. Now again, AS4564, which is the standard for natural gas specification, is currently being looked into in terms of what potential leniency can we give to, say, a biomethane. So there's going to be some additional oxygen that we may see in the concentration blend, but again, we don't see that having any implications on downstream appliances. And Future Fuels CRC has done a lot of work to investigate what are the impacts to customer appliances, similar to the way we look at hydrogen as well.
Okay, Paul, I've got a question for you. You mentioned new training for plumbers for hydrogen appliances. Has there been any consideration for training for consultants, addition to the Diploma of Hydraulic Services Design?
No, we don't licence those people.
So, that answer the question? I think that's it on my app. Has anyone got any questions from the floor they would like to ask? Oh, good. Okay, hang on. I'll come over here so we can all hear it.
Sorry, I did put this on the app, so I'm just going to read it. Okay, this is, my name's Claire Howe. I'm from Master Plumbers in Canberra. ACT's leading the way. That wasn't really mentioned, but, you know.
Sorry.
We're really proud of that. There are many organisational heads, political leaders and decision makers who work and reside in the ACT, and there are plenty of false facts circulating in the media there that they're all exposed to. What do you think about rolling out a fact check campaign across Canberra to even up the discussion?
Yeah, I think there'd be some value in responding to some of those negative implications that are made, and sometimes it comes across as you don't want to be combative, but I think there needs to be a respectful discussion, and sometimes both sides of the coin get very, like everyone's protecting their patch, and it comes across as a blow for blow sort of thing. But I think, yeah, if there's any sort of calm and considered way that we can say, hey, look, this is what's being said, but we believe, and we have evidence to show that this is the case. And I think, yeah, Canberra ACT was started very early on the electrification path, and that was a part, decided a long time ago. So it's probably a good case study for the rest of the nation to sort of follow. And it goes back to sort of public sentiment, and they're probably focus grouping to say there is votes in this, and that's why they do it, maybe.
Hang on, yes?
When I say false facts, I mean it comes down to even the government modelling that's been done. And we looked at the 400 pages of modelling, and apartments and townhouses were specifically left out of the Get Rid of Gas campaign modelling. And apartments and townhouses make up almost 50%, and it's growing in terms of residences in the ACT. So that sort of thing, I mean, we feel so strongly that this needs to be brought out into the open, and we would like some help in getting the message out there.
Yeah, and I do see a lot of your work on socials and whatnot, and trying to counteract some of those misgivings, I guess. But yeah, there's so much inertia on the electrification side that sometimes it does, and if I'm 100% honest, it feels like you're fighting a losing battle sometimes. And yeah, but I think countering with facts is always the take the high road on that, definitely.
Another question, just second table there.
Hi guys, Daryl Vecchio, Queensland Gas Association, and also BizMatrix, we're a training organisation. Just reinforcing what Claire said there, they started banning natural gas about 4 years ago in the ACT. We're heavily involved with the Type B industry over there, and they've been trying to replace it with heat pumps as far as heating's concerned. And they tried to get rid of it at one of the universities. They put 4 500 kilowatt heat pumps in there to get rid of a gas boiler. And first time they used it, well, they started using it, they had quadruple the power cost. And the facility tried to heat up on a -4 degree day, and they had 3 days of cold in that facility. They replaced the heat pumps back to gas boilers or gas heating. The other false economy is that they're replacing a lot of continuous flow hot water systems throughout Australia with heat pumps, and they don't work because under lower temperatures they just can't heat the water up past about 30 or 40 degrees. Mike, Graham, your excellent presentation, probably the best facts I've seen since the start of this banning campaign. And the same to you, Jarrod. Well done. But why? I know that the Australian Gas Works is coming on late night TV and promoting gas as our backup future. Why aren't we getting out there and actually getting the word out? Like Claire said before, we're not out supporting our industry, preventing these people from hijacking us. I'm an electrician of 40 years, and I can tell you our networks a street can only take 1 or 2 cars max, electric cars, charging. Any more than that, we're going to blow the transformers because there's a finite power available. Queensland's, I go back to the 80s, we didn't have enough power to power. If we had any hot days, we could lose our grid at any time. And now we're talking about getting every car electrified in Canberra. They're trying to ban fuel cars. And also the knock-on effect and the environmental code. So my question to you, when are we going to get out there and actually lobby and get the truth out there as far as electricity is the wrong way to go? We got no backup system in our energy systems if we ban our networks that could be future fuel supplies for hydrogen. So how can we get the word out a lot quicker and factual? Long question.
Yeah, long question. So a few points there. So going to modelling quickly, yeah, we have a lot of discussion with government behind the scenes around some of their modelling issues. For instance, if you're modelling and you look at modelling across the states, they model all 7-star appliances. They'll pick all the best electrical appliances that you can, air source heat pumps. Again, we go back to Graham's point around who can afford that. The significant cost of that is quite significant. But if you end up with, for instance, replacing air source heat pumps in that same calculation on your CO2 efficiencies with a standard electric hot water system, resistive, the CO2 emissions skyrocket, especially in Victoria. And you can still buy a resistive hot water system. There's nothing stopping you buying a 3-star rated system, but you can still go and buy it. Now, the problem we have is the narrative whenever you do, as a gas industry, turn around and say, well, that's not like, why don't we have a proper adult conversation? But it doesn't happen. There's a lot of work happening behind the scenes around informing and upskilling about the role, because the problem we have in a political sense is that we have dumbed down the conversation on energy so far down that electrification is easy. I mean, if you work with anyone in the electrical industry, they're horrified because they know how hard it's going to be. And my dad's an electrician as well, and he's like, this is madness. He lives in Victoria, and he's like, I don't even know how many Sparkies they'd need to even try to convert everyone's appliances over. They need to replace 190 homes a day for the next 10 years. There's not even enough Sparkies at the moment down there to do the actual work they need to do. So we've got a situation where we're moving very, very quickly in one direction that we kind of don't really know what we're doing, and the politicians are very convincing everyone that it's cheap, and it's going to be really cheap, which it's not. Decarbonisation is not going to be cheap, it's going to be expensive, and we're pushing away another energy source that is currently effective. So again, we are behind the scenes making a lot of kind of the policy and regulatory, but you will start seeing more from the gas industry over the next few months, and hopefully bringing out the more conversation on renewable gases, bringing it out into the limelight. So that a lot of our focus over the last couple of years has been behind the scenes trying to influence. Now we're bringing it into the frame of we can actually deliver a product, let's get it out there. And we're building these projects to get renewable gas on the ticket and get people to understand it.
There's one thing that was missed was the heat pump requires 3 tradesmen, including a refrigeration mechanic to repair it. And also the asset cost is like 5-6 grand. And what I think one of you guys said, I spent 25,000 so I get a power saving. You know, there's no logical sense. The false news going out there is pretty bad.
There's a fantastic ABC article from last year about a nice Toorak lady that replaced all of her appliances for $75,000 and got a $0 gas bill. That's a really good one if anyone's interested.
Well, commercial kitchens, because...
And I know who can afford 75 grand.
In Victoria, commercial kitchens, all the consultants have gone over consulting electric and going away from gas. And again, as an electrician, I can tell you, we did 2 Pizza Huts, one gas-fired, one was electric-fired ovens, and the electric store was 30% more energy cost. And this is going back a few years and nothing's changed. But the other problem you got with the whole process is induction as well. But the kitchens cost $50,000 to $60,000 to convert to electrical, assuming you can get the power in the building. There's a lot of statistics, unfortunately, that are not being aired, including in ACT, they're not giving DAs out because they can't get enough power for a building.
I think the public discussion is it's come to a point. It's going to be very difficult to get either side of the coin to agree on the other side's points. It's become so across the spectrum that you have news organisations who wouldn't run a certain position on that. And that's on both sides. So you could have a whole raft of facts about the transition and still having gas as part of that and utilising a massive infrastructure asset we have and not just having a white elephant there. But you'll get one half of the media who won't go for that. And same goes on the other side. And you also, with modern media these days, people choose what they want to read. I know I'd click on things I want to read and go, if I see something I disagree with, I pretty much don't even go towards it. So you have your own biases, and I feel like those biases are so dug in that it's going to be really hard to turn that wheel back. And I think it'll take someone in a position of power to go, you know what, maybe we need to back this off a bit and just readjust. And it might take I won't say catastrophe, but a big blackout or a big power situation for them to go, hang on a minute, we want to do this. Like, I think everyone agrees this is going to happen, but let's smooth it out a bit.
Yeah, I agree. And we are running out of time. Going back to the media, do you remember the days when the media would always give you two sides of the story? That's what I learned with journalism. That does not happen now. So there are always two sides, and unfortunately we only get to hear one side in many of the cases. You guys, I think you've really opened up a can of worms here, and I believe you're hanging around for lunch. Is that right? No, you're not sure now, are you? Because everyone can come and ask you more questions. So I'm sure they'll hang around and be happy to answer any questions you have. But right now, could you please put your hands together for Jarrod, Paul and Graham?
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.